Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's editor-in-chief, Tim Kawakami.
Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here, sounding pretty clear in the really nice acoustically sound room of Warriors Productions, or whatever, R.C. Davis's room, with the president, general manager. I don't know, have you added any more titles lately, Bob?
That's it.
King,
no.
Chief?
Father of three.
Father of, well, that's a pretty,
that's
yeah.
a new title.
That does change.
Yeah,
that
did change.
And man about town. Bob Myers. Bob, great to have you on the show. I'm not even sure you've been on with the Athletic since my time with the Athletic. Have you? Maybe you've been with me and Marcus.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you've been with me.
I don't think so.
Okay, because Ben Cruz, our producer, is like, I don't know that you've had Bob on.
Right.
So
well,
good to have you on. We're just off the DeMarcus Cousins introductory presser, and all went well. I just happened to notice, though, when our own Anthony Slater asked you and DeMarcus about, 1-year rental, is that add anything? And you jumped in with one of the most forceful answers I've ever heard from you.
Yeah.
You obviously have been thinking about this, and you were very like, we just want to win a championship. Obviously, that's it. You just want to win another championship. But do you feel this? Like, you don't want Cousins to be viewed as someone who's just kind of here for the part-time and then he's going to be gone?
I think you could tell me you're in the industry more than I am, or you're able to see it, and I'm perfectly willing to understand it better. But I think so much of our focus now, and maybe it's fan-driven, I don't know, and I'd be curious to see what you say, is directed at what is next instead of what is now. And I can't live that way, and that's why you saw the reaction. I was kind of responding to, this is hard every day, just focusing on that day to win a championship in 2018-19. I shouldn't say we don't. I feel like a lot of the focus is beyond that. And at some point you have to say, what about this year? What about this championship? And I felt that a little bit last year, and maybe it's specific to our team. How are you going to do this for 5 years or 10 years? And a little bit of is, let's try to do it this year. Mm-hmm. And so when you hear renters that, and you know this, and part of what I said was, more than ever, the fluidity to this business. The contracts are shorter. Players are changing more. You've covered sports a long time. Continuity is disrupted on a weekly, monthly, certainly yearly basis. So I think, and I even told somebody prior to that response, we are now in a year-to-year business. I mean, you don't know. I didn't know we were going to sign DeMarcus Cousins. I didn't know we were going to get Kevin Durant. People speculate this now. We can try for all these things, but as far as mapping them or planning them, I think a lot of focus, and even you hear it during the year, what's this guy going to do at the end of the season? And we're in November or we're in October, and it's kind of like, let's get through this season. So I don't know, Tim. I mean, that could be where all the passion lies from the fan base, because you have to write about it too, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's more interesting.
Those stories do very well.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm not really a fan. I work here. I'm trying to win this year. And knowing how hard that is, I push back against that a little bit, because my job here is to do that this year. It's not to lose sight of the future, but I don't know that it's fair. If you work somewhere for a year, I don't know that I'd call you a rental. Mm-hmm. I'd say Tim spent a year with this publication, this company, worked as hard as he could, and then he left, or they let him go, whatever.
Probably the other thing.
Well, whatever, yeah, right. But do you understand what I'm trying to convey?
I get it, but it's also segmented, right? I mean, part of the reason, and I write about this all the time, that you got Kevin Durant is because you planned for it for many years. Mm-hmm. So a lot of different levels here. Is as a franchise, you always have to look into the future. You always have to have budgets for the future. You always have to have ideas about what you're going to do into the future, and not just 1 year in the future, 2, 3, 4 years. This is why the Warriors are who they are.
Yep.
But also, when DeMarcus Cousins comes, you can't say, well, it's just meaningless because it's just going to be for 8 months, right? I mean, I understand that you have to operate differently and think differently on different levels with different players.
Sure.
And once DeMarcus Cousins comes, you can't be going, well, it's not that important because he won't be here. You can't think like that.
Sure. And I think part of it, and I don't know how you'd respond to this or how you'd feel, but part of it is there's scenarios where he could come back.
Yep.
And people can say that's not probable or that's improbable, but what of this is? I mean, you look around the NBA and you see the movement and the change. Guys are under contract, guys are free agents. There's a freedom to it, which is great for the players. But I think part of it is, like you said, with a guy like Cousins, these things don't come along that often to get that kind of talent on a team like ours. So the focus is let's not take that for granted. Let's capitalize on that this year and then deal with next year. But that's a fair point. I mean, I'm not trying to convey that we only care about this. That's not my job.
Yep.
Obviously, you know me. You know how Joe operates. We're thinking really deep into the future all the time. But at the same time, that can be 25, that can be 35. It can't be 100 into the future. Mm-hmm. It can't be all of it. It has to be the majority of each day. And what we've created here, and I joke around, and you covered our team. You've been here since I've started. We used to look over after practice, and it might be you, Rusty Simmons, and Marcus. I mean, that press conference, there was no press conferences like that.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't. I joke around, we might have 15 beat writers now.
Yep.
So it's a different animal. Good, it's what we want, but it's a different situation.
I give you credit for always looking for the big deal, and you don't always get the big deal. Was DeMarcus Cousins on any of your lists going into the free agency? I give you credit for it.
I know.
Maybe I got to apologize because I'm not sure.
No.
Was he, when you drew up a list, was he on?
He's on the list.
Yeah.
He was the top-rated center. I believe he was the top-rated center. On the list. But for here's how we approached free agency. We wanted to be patient. We knew we were in a situation where if something like this were to happen, we might have a chance. At the same time, this was July 2nd, right? This happened, I think, or 3rd or whatever it was.
2nd, I think.
I think 2nd. So usually for a player like him to make the decision he made, you make that decision July 8th, 9th. You play it out a little bit.
Yep.
So what was most surprising to me was the rapidity that conversation that I had with him on the phone that morning was, I want to do this now. Mm. And it caught me off guard a little bit. And I thought, well, maybe that's just an emotion. And then I waited. We had more conversations, and I understood then the seriousness of it. So he was an idea, a thought, but in no way, shape, or form did I expect it to happen when it did, the way it did. And look, that's a credit to him too. I just didn't know that. Somebody asked me at the press conference afterwards, what kind of guy is DeMarcus, or how does it feel to bring him in? I said, his action in coming for that number speaks so loudly to what his motivation is. I'm not really concerned with what he's saying or he's done otherwise, because for him to say, yes, I want to be in your organization for $5.3 million when he's worth a lot more, told me, and I think our organization, that he wanted to win a championship. And that was his focus.
So was there loose contact with him on the first? I mean, did he know there was some interest?
No, to be honest, we were talking to our own guys. Mm-hmm. We were reluctant to do the mid-level because of what it cost us. And people, this because you're pretty educated in it. But $5 million for us is yes, the player gets $5 million, but it costs us $20. Mm-hmm. So it's a $20 million acquisition for us, which is not. You don't do that lightly. I wouldn't try to spend $20 million of Joe's money and without thinking it through, even though the player only makes a quarter of that. So we had talked about different things, but to be completely candid, DeMarcus Cousins was not the focus of these conversations. We knew he was out there. We're kind of looking at it through one eye, but it was probably something we would have looked into, post July 5th, 6th. But it, like I said, when it happened was the most surprising thing.
Were there other players you would have given strong consideration to give him the full 5.3, one or two players?
No, there was probably him included. There was probably 5 or 6 players that are worth upwards of 10 to 15 that we thought if they want to sit out this free agency, they don't like what they're getting, would they come to us and view it as a chance to win a title and try again next year in free agency? He was one of those guys. There was 5 or 6 of them. A lot of them, well, they're all already signed. Mm-hmm. They're all done. They're all gone. They went pretty quick. Some of them went immediately. But again, we didn't know which one it would be. But he was not on the. I did not think he would be the one.
So you weren't in talks with these guys?
No, we were talking to people. Yeah,
Tariq Evans.
I'm not going to say the specific names, but we were in conversations with guys that, like I said, were worth more. That we thought maybe you want to come with us to try and win a title. And you'd play. I mean, Steve said many times, and what I was saying to people was, this isn't for you to come sit on the bench. And I explained what it would cost us to use $5 million. And I said, that's how much we would want you. And I said that to DeMarcus. I said, we expect you to play. This isn't come along for the ride. This is help us win a championship. And there's minutes there. I mean, we've got our core guys, and whether it's 4 of them or 6 of them, they've played a lot of minutes. They're not trying to play 40 minutes. Steve Kerr's not trying to play him 40 minutes. So I think that was a selling point with him. And then, look, positionally, that's the position that was the biggest hole. It's not to discredit Looney or Jordan Bell or Damian Jones or anybody else, but that was the least shored up position. It happened to be the guy that was willing to come.
Do you can you say anything with the progress of the talks with Patrick McCaw at this point? He's out there, qualifying offer. Is there negotiations, or is it okay? He comes back to you when he has an answer, one way or the other.
No, we talk. I mean, his agent's 10 miles from here, who had known Bill a long time. So we talk. We had some good talks in Las Vegas. We want Patrick back, but we understand it's a process, just like they do, and we hope it ends with him coming back as a Warrior. And that's our focus. That's our goal. Can't say right now what will happen, but that's our hope.
You guys talked a lot about being younger. Wings have been mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you fulfilled that? I mean, obviously, Cousins takes you down a different road.
Right.
Do you feel like you might still be a little vulnerable on that wing position, knowing you've got some age there, knowing you got some guys who played a lot of minutes at those spots?
Well, we hope we get Pat, and we signed. We signed. When we have Damian Lee, another guy in a two-way, and then we've got Jacob Evans, who we drafted, who are younger. We potentially are going to leave that 15th spot open to see what develops, and that would likely be a wing-focused guy. But there's great value in the league now. You saw us pick up Quinn Cook. There's players that emerge in camps. There's this two-way, which is fantastic, I think, for us to find players that fit economically, because we're up against it. There's always ways to add, but yeah, I mean, I think you saw in the draft and you saw in free agency, wings were coveted. It's that time in the league now where the positionless 1, 2, 3 guy matters. We signed Jerebko as a backup 4 to Draymond, because if you looked at our roster, you don't really see a backup 4 at all.
You've never had one.
Never had one.
Yep.
We'd like to have one.
Yep.
So we feel like he fits that, shoots it well from 3. So look, no team is. I know people comment on we're not a perfect team. We could always have more depth at certain areas, but we are where we are. We like where we are, but we'll always be open to what else we can add.
You're talking about around the league. Kerr's joked about it. Curry just joked about it recently. The idea that you guys are ruining the league. The guy that DeMarcus Cousins. Well, that's just silly now. Now it's all in the circumstances are individual. They happen one by one. But have you heard this from your colleagues around the league? Have you heard? Are you at all sensitive to the fact that, okay, the rest of the league doesn't have a chance if the Warriors are going to be doing this stuff every time?
I don't know. My peers, the GMs, they're competitive. They don't want to concede anything, which is the same way I would be. But, look, I mean, some of that talk, and you've watched basketball for 30 years. I mean, you've L.A., seen all of it, right? So for anybody to say that, there's a couple things that come to mind. One, I mean, maybe I'm obviously biased, but if I wasn't, I would like watching this team play. I think it would be it's a great product to watch Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, now Cousins. If you don't like watching that, whether you like our team or not, that's the basketball at its highest level. I mean, that's, as a fan of basketball, to get to see that group of players. That's why people watch the Olympics or watch the All-Star game. It's that kind of talent. That's what you got to see with the Showtime Lakers. In person, you remember that. We don't remember mediocrity, not fondly at least. We may recall it, but what I remember growing up was Michael Jordan and those Bulls teams, dominant teams.
1995 UCLA basketball team.
Well, that was the most dominant team. But no, I think so. There's one part of me that says, how can you say that when, as a fan of basketball, just the game of basketball? And then secondly, look, our job, my job, and I said this before, is to win. That's what Joe, you know who I work for. That's what we're trying to do. And that's what everybody else is trying to do. There's going to be a time, and I know Joe would disagree, that there's another team. And that's when, Joe will look at me and say, why aren't we that team? And I said, well, we were pretty good for a while, but nothing lasts forever. We'll try. We'll try to keep it going as long as we can. But I feel like all we're doing, Tim, and I say this every offseason, we talk out on the practice court, what are you going to do in free agency? I said, we're going to try and get better. That's it. And I think Cousins makes us better, but hopefully next summer we get better too.
Conversely, interesting, there is these twin, I hate to say narratives, but I will say it. Warriors are in the league. Oh, my God, they got all this money coming up, and it's going to all blow up in 2 years. Yeah. You and I have talked about this. There is a looming payroll crunch. When you talk about repeater tax, you talk about the luxury tax bill you're already paying, which you would pay next year if you are extending Klay Thompson and Draymond Green to obviously large contracts. Is this a looming threat in your mind or in Joe and Peter's mind that you are possibly looking at a $300 million total combined payroll if you include luxury tax and maybe even higher off into the future?
Look, we know the numbers. I don't think we're running from those things, but I do know that a couple things I know. I don't know what the future is going to bring. I know that we've got a group that wants to stay together. We've got a group of players and an ownership group that wants to keep it together. That's very competitive. I mean, both sides. You've heard Klay's comments. You've been around Draymond. You know who he is. He wants to keep winning. I think winning is infectious. I think it's something that even though you've done it and these guys have done it, you want to do it more and more. And Steph has said it even, let's get greedy and keep winning. So I know that that thought is real amongst the whole organization. I think we don't go out and sign Cousins if we're satisfied. You know, a lot of owners might say, I'm not spending that money. I don't care who wants to come. I'm not spending $20 more million. Look at my payroll already. Well, there's another indication of Joe doesn't just go out there and say, I'll do whatever it takes. I could sit here today and nobody would ever know that we could have signed DeMarcus Cousins but for we didn't want to spend the money. That happens in sports. It happens all the time. So for me, I'm lucky enough to call Joe and say, Joe, we've got this unique opportunity. What do you want to do? Are you kidding me? Yeah, do it. So my thought is when these moments occur, and who knows, Tim, how they'll occur. Like I said, this league is shifting faster each day that I'm in this side of the business and that we've seen this. I feel like we'll do whatever we can to keep winning. And I think the players will do whatever they can to keep winning. Not knowing what that'll exactly look like, I guess it helps going into a new arena.
Yep.
The revenues, we're lucky we're supported by the fan base we are. The NBA is doing extremely well as a whole. And so some of it comes down to what we can afford to do, what's our revenue, what's our EBITDA, all these things. What does the new arena look like? How does that allow us to do it? But working with Joe Lacob, Peter Guber, Rick Welts, all the people that I work with and work for, they all want to win. They're all very good at what they do. Rick Welts is great at being the person he is and maximizing revenue with his group. Joe Lacob and Peter Guber are visionaries that have achieved in life and want to continue to achieve. Our players, Draymond Green's won at every level. Klay Thompson just wants to win. Steph Curry, he goes out and recruits a guy like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant comes here under a lot of scrutiny and faces it and overcomes it. So I think with all that combined, I'm confident we can work it out. I can't sit here today and mathematically show you, but based on all the things I've seen, we'll find a way. I don't know exactly what that way will look like, but you're right to say that it's out there.
Could this team deal with a $300 million payroll?
I don't know. I really don't know. It depends on what is looking at on the other side of things. You know, I don't know. Look, I've always said the most important thing from my side and our side as an organization is to have players on contracts that are fair. Are you worth your contract is probably the most important thing, because if you are, Tim, and you know this, you can move off those contracts. Mm-hmm. If you had to. Now, you don't want to. Obviously, you want to keep winning if that player is worth it. But the most important thing is to pay the players a fair amount that the league considers fair, that the league would look at, that you would look at and say that's a very fair contract. We've been lucky enough to have continuity and keep our team together. But, yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. I do know this, that I get to work for probably someone that's as competitive or more than anybody I've ever met. And so I'll bet on that.
The fact that you're not going, oh my God, $300 million is telling, you know, this franchise is in a unique place. You mentioned the other players. You have Klay Thompson, obviously, coming up at the end. Next year. We'll go off into the future a little bit. Draymond in 2.
I know you have to do it.
Yeah, Draymond in 2. Have there been any recent conversations with Klay? I know Marcus wrote that earlier this year, and the franchise didn't love it. But have you had any new conversations? Do you imagine you will have a conversation with Klay's representative and Klay about an extension this summer?
Oh, we'll keep talking about it. And the Marcus thing was fine. I just thought it was construed that it was happening in the middle of the playoffs, which we talked about. It was no problem. But I think We talked about that last year in China. We'll continue to talk about it. And for those guys, it's their choice. We'll try to pay them what's fair, and takes two. I understand they got to like the deal too. But we're motivated. I think they're motivated. I've seen these things lay dormant for a while, then get revisited and come back up. I tell you this, Klay's not driven monetarily. I think he wants to be paid fairly. I think Draymond's the same way. And obviously Kevin has shown, he's shown it, that doesn't have to have every last penny. We're fortunate.
If Klay and Draymond do it now, they will not make the max. They cannot make it.
Yeah, they couldn't. Right.
Which
exactly.
is interesting.
Right,
just that discussion itself is interesting.
Yeah, sure. And so is the happy medium somewhere in between? I don't know. That's the conversation that we have to have in the future. But what we can do, what we continue to try and do, is make this a place that players want to play for, as evidenced by a guy like Cousins saying, I want to go there. He could have probably signed with any team in the league for the number he signed for. He chose us. That's due to Steve Kerr's work, Joe Lacob, Peter Guber, fostering this kind of environment, our players, and we involve them. People ask how Cousins got signed. Kevin Durant and Draymond Green and Steph Curry had a baby that day, and we tracked him down. Yeah. And what do you guys think? So if you involve them in the pursuit and they feel like they're part of it, I think it's like you want to feel like your work values you, not just financially, but your opinion, your worth, to the direction we're going in. So I think if you feel all those things, and Klay Thompson, he probably says it the best. He may have the best, I've joked around, he may have the best view of all this than anybody I've ever met, as far as I'm happy. And many people have tried to push him towards, don't you want to be this? Don't you want to be that? And he's always responded with, I get to decide what matters to me. It may not be the same things that you think I should care about. And that's fascinating for me. And maybe that's because he grew up in the NBA with his dad and doesn't view it the same way. But I feel like if we can create a place that gives them a chance to win a championship, get paid well, enjoy going to work every day, which people think every NBA player loves going to work every day. That's not true. Maybe it should be, but it isn't. And so if we can create a place where players enjoy it, the hope is they want to continue to do that. And how that plays out, we'll see.
We're going to take a quick break to talk about our friends over at Indochino. As my wife tells me all the time, every guy looks better in a suit. You know who has a solid suit game that I noticed today? The guy TK is talking to right now, Bob Myers. Indochino is the world's largest made-to-measure menswear company and has been featured in major publications including GQ and Forbes. They make suits and shirts made to your exact measurements for a great fit. So, whether you're a tall suit wearer like Bob Myers or a short suit wearer like yours truly, Indochino will have you looking good. Here's how it works. Visit a showroom or shop online at Indochino.com. Pick your fabric, choose your customizations, submit your measurements, wait for your custom suit to arrive in just a few weeks. This week, TK's listeners can get any premium Indochino suit for just $359 at Indochino.com when you enter code TK at checkout. That's 50% off the regular price for a made-to-measure premium suit. Plus, the shipping is free. So, head to Indochino.com. Hit promo code TK for any premium suit for just $359 and free shipping. It's an incredible deal for a suit that will fit you better than anything off the rack ever could. And now, back to the TK show.
You mentioned Durant. He re-upped again for 1 year, though. Took less than his max. But he's going to be a free agent again next year. And he's been a free agent every time he's been here. He's been a free agent for his fourth straight year.
Right.
Do you think in any way he might be looking around? Is that a concern to you?
No, I don't think so. Look, he's smart. It gives him the best optionality financially to do what he did.
Yeah, because he can take the 5 year at the end of July.
Yeah, if I was his friend and he said, I didn't work here, I said, well, yeah, that gives you the chance to do whatever you want, really. Gives you the best flexibility financially for us. Freedom is important for players. I think he's happy. He seems happy to me. Obviously, I've always said that he took a big – people don't think he did, but I feel like he took a risk in leaving. He had to win here. What if we didn't win? Yep. What kind of scrutiny would he have faced? His risk, he was right. He was MVP of the finals twice. He won 2 championships. his decision, although people thought it was easy, I've always thought it was a hard decision. I think who of us makes a decision where we know half, if not more, people are going to be negative and still make it and are as public? I don't know what it's like to be scrutinized publicly like a guy like Kevin Durant has dealt with. So I think he's enjoying it. I know he loves the coach, loves his teammates, loves the city, loves the people, loves the things he's involved in here. So for me, I think it was smart. I think it was a good decision, and economically, it could be great for him too.
As an agent, when you see guys doing the 1 year thing, 1 year, obviously he's giving himself option now, and he's Kevin Durant. He and LeBron are going to get whatever offer they want. But do you feel the risk that he's taking by going one, or do you sense, okay, he's Kevin Durant?
Yeah, he's Kevin Durant. I mean, you can't say that about a lot of guys, but you've covered sports for a long time. There's a few guys that can do that, and there's not many, really. I mean, look at any sport, even baseball. A guy like Bryce Harper or one of these guys. Technically, they could do it too, I guess, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you get a guy and they sign for 5, 6, 7 years, huge numbers. At some point, guys will say, "Okay, I'm done with that." But until you are, I mean, keep doing it. One thing people don't players they have to live in certain places, and when they sign with a team for whatever years, they're really at the mercy of that team for that length of that contract. So I think players are becoming more aware of the duration of contracts, but most don't live in that world, Tim. Most are, give me the biggest amount of guaranteed money because who knows what's going to happen. There's very few that can say, I'll do this kind of on my own terms.
Look around the league, you got some movement. You got LeBron James coming to the Lakers. Luke Walton's Lakers. What's your reaction to that? That you're going to be playing him 4 times a year? You might see him really early in the playoffs instead of at the end of them.
Yeah, well, it's the West has gotten even tougher. I think. Not just look at some of the movement. The West was tough already, and so navigating that, we were not the 1 seed last year. We had a tough regular season. People will probably you were here, so you probably will remember it more than most. But most people will just remember the way it ended, winning the last 4 games. But there was some tough moments, and the West will do that to you. I think it was our last game of the season at Utah, just drubbed. You can't go into Utah or any team really in the West and kind of do it without a lot of purpose. I mean, there's some really good teams, and they didn't get any worse, really. I mean, so some teams got better. And there's not a lot of games where you can just say, well, we got that game. Everybody's trying to win. There's some spots that are open that are going to be fought for till the very end. But then look at the East. That was a captivating playoffs too. I think to see some of these teams emerging, to see young players emerging, is always what's exciting for me. To see, wow, I didn't know that guy was that good. To see them play in the playoffs. But yeah, the West it's tough. It's been tough for a while.
Yep. Well, again, you're not going to say anything, Neto, but Houston played you great, and they lose 2 of their guys. Mbah Moute was hurt, but that was a key guy for them, and obviously lose Trevor Ariza, who was, guys who guard Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are pretty special, and they lose both of them. Do you look at them as they're going to be a little different next season?
I don't know. I mean, Houston did what they did last year. I don't know that a lot of people thought they could do. I think they proved it, and so we've got a great coach, great GM. Really good players, and you don't ever count. They were great. They had a great season. They were right there, had us down twice in closeout games, had us really on the ropes. So, no, I don't know how it'll play out for them or any other team, but they're gonna. That's not a team where you go, well, we're better than them, or we don't worry about. We worry about everybody, and they certainly gave us great cause last year as well.
You allow yourself. You're a step back and look at everything and take it all in kind of guy, but I mean, you get immersed in this. You have won 3 championships in the last 4 years.
I know.
You are heavily favored to do it again. Do you allow yourself at any moment to say, "This is," other than it might end at some point, which makes Joe very happy.
Right.
Do you allow yourself to say, "This is a special moment in time, and I am in the middle of it,"
right,
and just allow yourself to enjoy that?
Not as much as I'd like. not as much as I know that I should. I know that I should, but I don't know why I struggle with that part. I actually, unfortunately, think that I'll appreciate it more in the rear view mirror. Maybe that's because there's work to do today, tomorrow, and that you're in it. It's hard to be stepping back from something that you're consciously right in the thick of still. And I don't know, Tim. I mean, maybe you know. Can you do that? I mean, are you able to do that?
I think if you do it really quickly.
Yeah.
And then because if you do it too long, then you're screwing up.
Then you're screwing up. So I don't even know the right. I had lunch with Pat Riley in Vegas and asked him kind of just some of these questions and said, because he was involved in all these different dynasties, whatever you want to call them. He had the you can't appreciate. I don't know how you do that. I'm not even sure the fans do it, to be honest, because it's more. When the 49ers were doing what they were doing, and you were in LA for the Showtime stuff. Yeah. I'm not sure anybody really knows until you've had some distance, and you look back and go, that was pretty unique. But when you're in it, you just think it's going to keep going and going and going.
Yep. And you're driven.
And you're driven to keep going.
Yeah. Because if you're that kind of personality, it wouldn't have happened. If you weren't driven, it wouldn't have happened in the first place.
Right.
This is what I kind of believe.
Right. But then you want to be somebody that also balances that with,
Yep.
I'm driven and I'm going to keep trying, but man, have a glass of wine one night.
In about 6 years or wherever, you're going to want to have enjoyed this.
Sure. You don't want to look back, because if you can't, then what are you doing?
Yep. And, I mean, Joe does say he wants it to go on forever. How much of a pressure is that for you? Like, we're going to have to find the next Steph Curry. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time.
That's great.
I mean, do you find yourself going, okay, well, I'll ask you a more practical question. You just extended Steve Kerr, obviously.
Right.
Your contract is, I think, for a couple more years. Do you find yourself thinking that you will get an extension pretty soon?
I mean, I don't really think about it. I hope. I mean, I want to stay here. I love working with Joe and Peter. The goals, I mean, as we joke around about Joe's competitiveness, I mean, any of us that succeed at anything, I think that comes from inside of ourselves. Anybody that is only driven by somebody pushing them probably doesn't succeed. It has to come from inside of each of us. And so for me, I have that drive just the same way he does. He's probably different at vocalizing it in some ways, but I have the same hopes, and I don't want this to end either. I want to keep it going as long as we can. It's fascinating, really. It's to see this organization be viewed the way it is. Sometimes I have to kind of take a step back and say, wow, on a road game, look at all these people in Warriors jerseys. I mean, that used to happen to us, right? I used to go to games when I was a kid, and it was all Lakers, Celtics, Bulls, and it kind of pissed you off. It's kind of like, what are those guys doing? But we are that team in many other arenas. So that's what we do this for, right? To become that team. But I mean, I'm so excited about the level of excitement in our community, the give back that the fans, what they've got to experience. These young kids that are walking around in Warriors stuff, all they know is our success. The fans that have been with us forever, they know it in a different way. They appreciate it in a different way. We were there through the thick and thin, up in the Larry Smith hard hat section, and now we're getting to see this team, and by golly, we've earned this. We deserve this. So there's all these different levels of appreciation. For me, I'm so happy to have been a part of giving that back. And Steve Kerr says this great. I said, sometimes the job is hard. Sometimes you sit there and go, man, I don't know about this. This is consuming. I mean, I'm not even sure this is healthy. And I asked Steve, I said, what is the best part of this job? Because as contrary to popular belief, it isn't for me at least, it's not a selfish thing for me. I'm so great. Look at what we've done. For me, it has to be something else. So he responded, which I think is very true, in that it's seeing the joy in the community. That is the number one fulfilling thing that I get from this job, from this team, watching them succeed. So for me, that doing things for other people is lasting. So if I can keep doing that, going into the new arena, and keep trying. I mean, there's going to be a time where we're not favored. We're competing, and what's that going to be like? And how's that going to feel? It's going to feel different than this, but that'll be a new chapter, a new journey. And Steve, as far as Steve goes, he deserves, Steve Kerr is a one-of-a-kind human being and a one-of-a-kind coach, and so happy he's a great partner, one of the most collaborative people I've ever met, one of the most inclusive people. A lot of head coaches aren't that way. They're very closed off to suggestions, advice. Steve, sometimes he over-communicates with me. He'll ask me questions about the roster and who to start and this and that, and I'll just say, whatever you want, man. Like, I trust you. So a great partner. He's going to be living a few blocks from me.
I understand that.
So we were joking about me taking out the trash and meeting at the corner. It's not a joke. I mean, literally, for him to walk from his house to my house is 3 minutes. Walk, not drive, walk. I mean, maybe 2.5. So there's that part. What people may not know about the job is you spend so much time with these people that they become important to you, the relationships. And so that's what makes it so fun. Going through it with these people, the people I get to work with, the players, all the people in my group, in the front office, the ownership, Steve, it's what makes it fun.
You have had some people leave, we've all noticed, and this happens, and each case is individual, but Chelsea Lane leaves, Ralph Walker leaves, Sammy Gelfand has left.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be others, I don't know.
I think that's all it is.
That's okay for now.
I think so. It could be happening now.
Do you just take that this is individual decisions? Is it a blow to the franchise when 3 people who have meant a lot to this team all leave at the same time? How do you kind of categorize what the loss that you feel with those 3 going?
I think you miss people because you develop a relationship with them, but I think if you're realistic, change happens. You've done it. I mean, you've worked with a ton of different people in a ton of different places. It's necessary. Sometimes it's not bad or good. You can't quantify it. Oh, it's great that they're gone, or it's awful that they're gone. It's somewhere in the middle. You're going to miss them, but it's refreshing to go out and replace and replenish. You're never going to go through it. I don't think it's even healthy to have the same people for 10, 15, 20 years in an organization for them or the organization. And so I support them all. They were great. We're going to miss them. We're going to have a hard time figuring it out, but we will, and we'll move on and get new people, and they'll leave, and they'll come and go, and next year we'll be talking about a few other people, players. It happens to GMs, it happens to coaches. Owners usually stay. Sometimes they go.
You can't dismiss owners. I heard that say that too. They don't tend to leave. Is there some? I've speculated this. You tell me I'm wrong. Is there some, year after year burnout just generally because you do work 2 months longer with this team than most other teams do?
Oh man, that's a different one. I mean, I would say the question is more of 4 years in a row, not 1 year. I think if it was just a 1 year, if we just won it 4 years ago and that was it, that would not have felt fatiguing. I think Steve said this, the last team to go to the NBA Finals 5 years in a row was the 1960s. So it's been 50, 60 years, right?
Yep.
That's a long time to try and do this again. And to your question, it'd be being naive to say there's not some fatigue that comes with it. There's a physical fatigue, there's an emotional fatigue, but it's like climbing a mountain again that you've already climbed, and you know how hard it is, but you want to try to do it again. You don't have that burst of adrenaline that you had the first time. You may not have the motivation that you had the second time to prove that the first time wasn't luck. So you find a different gear, you find a different energy. But to say that it doesn't add a little weight, clearly it does. There's a reason why it hasn't happened in 60 years. And there's a healthy. That's why Steve's so good at saying, "Go away, guys. We don't have all our veterans in here working out today." There's a space that's needed, and you have to find that because the season. I mean, I don't know. We start end of September. 2 months. Feels it's crazy.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
The season just keeps going.
It just keeps going.
So. Okay, Bob. We've talked plenty here. Let's get Bob Meyer's favorite restaurant.
I know. Were we talking about the city or were we anywhere?
I would like the city because you're a city guy.
I live in the city.
Kokari. Let me guess.
Kokari's big. Yeah. It's big. That I feel like though that's like the you have to try to knock that off.
Exactly. It's like the staple.
It's a staple, and it's so good. We just went there with my wife and our kids, and so there's a place I can walk to. I'll take Steve to. Actually, I told Steve about a place, Social, which is on Sacramento Street, which we can walk to as well. that actually Steve now is frequenting. Steve
okay,
Kerr.
okay.
I told Steve, I said, I used to kind of be the big guy in the area, and said, now I'm going to go into the coffee shop, and they're going to say, guess who was in here? Steve Kerr. And I'm going to say, I know that guy. He didn't do anything. So, but there's a place. The Social is good. Garibaldi is probably the one I would say. They have a good dish there that I get that's really good. So I would say that I can walk there. But it's called Garibaldi, and it's on Presidio, just north of Sacramento.
Okay.
So it's good.
You're such a city guy now.
I know. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's
it means
good.
something to people who live in the city. I'll
All
tell
right,
you
I
that.
guess so.
And
All right.
having grown up there, I'll
All
say
right, there you
it
go.
does mean something.
All right.
We've taken plenty of your time, Bob. Always appreciate you coming on. Appreciate this nice sound of this room.
Yeah.
I really like this. We're actually going to sound pretty good.
I like that.
All right, everybody. It's TK Show today. Thank you, Bob Myers.
Thanks a lot.